Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our panel discussion, promoting diversity in the buildings workforce. This is an issue that's very near and dear to my heart and to that of Best Center. Today, I am joined by these esteemed panelists, and they include Madeline Salzman, who is a programs analyst and the workforce lead for the Department of Energy at their Building Technologies office. And Armando Casillas is a scientific engineering associate at the Lawrence Berkeley Lab in their big Building Technologies Urban Systems Division. Susan Thompson works in facilities operations at Jones Lang and LaSalle, and she is a former technical college instructor who participated in a number of our workshops. And then also, last but not least, Dr. Deb Hall at Valencia College. She is the chair and lead instructor for the Energy Management Controls Technology program. And that looks like her snazzy lab there in the background. So glad to have you all here. I think it goes without saying that equity issues abound relative to the clean energy economy and how we kind of make that most beneficial to everyone. We've had presentations looking at the accessibility to these technologies, so people can install them at home and at work. But then on the other side, we have this issue about what jobs come out of this economy and how we can, bring the most benefit to bear, especially for those in underrepresented communities. With that, I will turn it over to Madeline Salzman to help kind of set the stage nationally about where we are with our labor situation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Larry. And I'm just pulling up my screen here. Are folks able to see my screen? Hopefully that's happening successfully. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much. It's really wonderful to be here and joined by folks and get to hear a little bit about all the great work that the Best Center is up to and my esteemed panelists as well. So I wanted to just give a little bit of foundation setting for how DOE sees the building efficiency workforce, some of the key barriers and issues, and some of the work we're taking on in this space. But I will try to run through my slides very quickly so that we have plenty of time for discussion. So really quickly, I work, as Larry mentioned, in the Building Technologies Office, which is within the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, which has overarching goals for achieving an equitable transition to a net zero greenhouse gas economy by no later than 2050. And I advise on our workforce development portfolio to try to make sure that there is a workforce of that's nationally representative and of sufficient size, skill, and compensation in order to carry out this transition. So needing to focus on the nation as a whole at a really big scale, but then also figuring out for each of these individual occupations and areas, how can we address the barriers that exist and make it easier to participate in these occupations. So I won't spend too much time on this slide because I'm sure this is very familiar to folks on the call, but in the Building Technologies Office at DOE, we spend a lot of time thinking about the future of buildings, how they're going to be more efficient, more technologically advanced, and more intelligent and responsive to occupant needs to balance energy use, costs, and comfort, which is all really exciting, but we have to think critically about what this means for the workforce that's involved in installing these technologies, maintaining them, understanding the data that's coming out of this tech, and then reacting to it. And so when we're thinking about who is the building efficiency workforce that we're trying to reach, it's really a quite broad array of people. So everybody from that is involved from developing, researching, and manufacturing efficient building technology to designing and developing the buildings that they exist in, to deployment of then technology in construction and installation, and a category we call diffusion, so business services and programs that help drive this market forward. And so facility management, in our kind of characterization, we've put under our deployment bucket. And just to be clear that it's a super important area, but one of many that are involved in making this whole ecosystem work. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the barriers that we've observed in this space. The first being that, a lot of people are not aware of building efficiency careers that are available. They're either fully not aware at all, or they might even have a negative connotation with some of the careers that are out there. That a survey a few years ago found that 71% of students surveyed were definitely or probably not interested in HVAC careers. And we know that across many efficiency occupations, women and Black Americans in particular are underrepresented, that women only make up 25% of the efficiency workforce and Black Americans make up only 8% of the efficiency workforce. And that part of relating to these issues are a lack of identity within the efficiency workforce. A lot of people primarily identify as construction or manufacturing or operations, which is great. There's no problem with that, but it does make it more challenging to kind of talk coherently about who works in efficient buildings and makes kind of the buildings of the future possible today. I wanted to dive in a little bit on some of the findings on green buildings, workforce, wages, and diversity. And so I know this is kind of a lot of things going on this chart, but what we find is that many relevant careers in efficient buildings pay pretty well when compared to the US workforce median wage or even the energy workforce median wage. And yet we can see the degree of underrepresentation of Black Americans and women in the workforce. So the orange line is the overall US workforce, that's women. The yellow line is the overall US workforce, that's Black or African American. And you can see in these career areas that the dots are consistently below the representation levels we see across the board. So many of these groups are not finding themselves in these careers and perhaps finding barriers when trying to enter them. Even if we overcome that barrier, we also know that the pathways are not particularly clear to enter these careers. So credentials are often fragmented and non-transparent. Sustainability trainings are often elective rather than foundational. And we see this show up as more extreme hiring difficulties among efficiency employers. And then finally, if somebody has managed to self-navigate through all the credentials and training and electives that they need in order to be experienced in this area, we will still sometimes have quality installation issues, particularly as it pertains to the newest technologies that are being deployed. So there's been limited adoption of digital tools to streamline processes in construction. Sustainability in building science is often ad hoc and not standardized. And we can actually survey buildings to understand kind of the installation fault issues that exist across the board. So there are lots of issues here, not less, but certainly not least, is that, an important factor here is that training does not make a workforce, demand for that workforce does. That just because somebody has skills does not mean they are employed to use those skills, right? Training and skills are a vital component of this, but we also need to see that there's industry support for these skill sets and policy mechanisms in place that help ensure people actually are being rewarded financially for the skill sets that they have, and create kind of a market pull for people to enter these jobs. We don't want to train people for jobs that fundamentally don't exist for whatever reason. So all of that has built up into our strategy. And I know there's a lot going on this slide, but our goal is to ensure career pathways for a diverse and qualified building efficiency workforce that enables high performance buildings nationwide. And we kind of can go through all of those barriers that I mentioned along the workforce pipeline of people early in their career to on-the-job training to mid and late career, and see that each of those barriers that we talked about shows up along that pipeline. And so our focus areas are to build interest, streamline paths, improve skills, and then support demand for this workforce. And I won't spend too long on all the ways that we're working on these things. This slide is not to say that DOE has active areas across all of here, but that, I want to be clear that this is a puzzle of sorts of many pieces that helps make a fully functioning workforce ecosystem. And, to be aware of all these different pieces and how they fit together, that, depending on whether you want to focus on market pull or you want to focus on awareness and understanding, there's different types of resources and items to develop. So far, the Building Technologies Office has awarded about 15 million in workforce development awards that focus on a variety of folks. And so this is the array of projects that have been awarded in the last couple of years in this area. And we have a few different community colleges that we've been working with. And our principles of really developing training, integrating that training, and then making it easily accessible and adoptable by other folks as well. One of those projects is developing a Green Buildings Career Map, which is available at greenbuildingscareermap.org, which features over 50 careers to help build awareness into the career pathways that do exist. And then finally, we've also worked on our partnerships program, which is the Better Buildings Workforce Accelerator, featuring over 40 partners that have self-committed to driving forward goals in this area, where DOE promises to provide technical assistance towards helping them achieve these goals. So really trying to drive the presence of building science education in training, programming, and awareness of those training and programs. And so the goals of those accelerator partners come out to development of over 16 new workforce programs, 15 targeting underrepresented communities, over 20,000 surveys distributed of participants, 37,000 participants trained, and reaching over 450,000 people with information about green building careers. And I think with that, I will turn it over to the rest of the panel. So just to give a really high level overview of some of the issues we've been seeing in the workforce at DOE and some of the interest areas we have for moving forward. But I'm really excited to participate in the discussion with everyone on what the needs look like for moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Madeline. And now we'll hear from Armando Casillas.
Hi, everyone. So just a quick intro on me. First of all, thanks for having me. This is really exciting to be a part of the BEST conference for the first time, and can't wait for all this to be hopefully at some point in person and can meet you all. And yeah, so yeah, I'm a scientific engineering associate at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. I've been at the lab for about 2.5 years now. I work at the Building Technologies and Urban Systems Division. I work on research related to making buildings more intelligent and energy efficient, as well as connected and grid interactive, very similar to what Madeline just showed on one of her slides. Grid interactive efficient buildings is a big focus for our division and DOE in general. So I mainly focus on the mechanical systems in the building related to the HVAC systems, and use principles such as controls theory and thermofluid dynamics to better control and operate these systems, to enable to provide better service to occupants and eventually the grid, to further aid in the clean energy transition. So in terms of my career path to where I am now, I started in my hometown of Bakersfield, California, where I went to community college. And after high school, then transferred to UC Merced, which is the newest UC in California, and also the smallest, where I got my degree in mechanical engineering, my bachelor's there. After that, I went to UC Davis and attended their energy systems program, which is a brand new program. I was part of the first cohort there. Did my lab work there, my graduate work with the Western Cooling Efficiency Center with Dr. Mark Madera, and met my mentor there, Dr. Marco Bertoni, who works at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, and naturally became interested in the work being done at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, and here I am. So yeah, great to be with you all, and look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Armando. Susan?
Yes, hello.
We hear you.
Hi. Yeah, so I've spent most of my career in HVAC. I started my introduction to HVAC was through WIT program at the local college. It was a 16-week introductory course to various trades. And from there, I chose to do the HVAC program. So I went into the 2-year program at that point. Completed that and managed to find myself some work. It took me probably the first 6 or 9 months to find work, and worked for 3 different local companies, moving up from a helper to a technician, from a residential company to a company that did residential and light commercial. And I spent probably 15, 17 years there, and then got my foot back into the college as a part-time teacher. And at that, and of course, in all that time being a technician, quite often customers that wanted me back would say, send that girl, because they didn't have to know my name because I was the only one. So from doing the teaching, it was a somewhat similar experience to my own student experience, because I had one woman ahead of me and one woman behind me in the classes, and I still saw pretty much that same kind of ratio as students came through my classroom, one at a time. And from that, after doing some teaching and needing a change again, I had worked on my FMP and my LEED certification, and went to look for some work in buildings, because to my thinking, it was pretty much the same sort of stuff, just on a larger scale. And of course, having learned building as a system stuff along the way, which really turned on a whole bunch of light bulbs and got me excited and thinking even more about energy and efficiency, I continued to pursue that, and have been in facilities supporting the energy tracking and monitoring, and talking about it as much as possible, and trying to get other people to think about it and do more to make our buildings better. So we've been working on creating our baselines and improving the low-hanging fruit stuff, of course. And of course, we're just starting to work towards the bigger stuff, because we've actually been able to get an ASHRAE audit completed, and we've had 10 recommendations from that, and I think we're got 3 approved so far moving forward, and a couple more in the pipeline. This was very good timing for the Best Center to pop up on my radar again, because I've also been invited to join the Canadian Technical Committee for JLL Canada. And one of the recent topics we've came up with just before Christmas was discussing how to get some of our building operators some certification training. So I've also reached out to some members of the Best Center here to gather some information back on that. And I think that it's a valuable resource, and I think it's important to educate even our operators in that, and to think about energy education, so that they can impact the operation of their buildings. And I am concerned about smart buildings moving forward, and employers not necessarily keeping a pace and training up their staff to meet these new requirements.
Susan, we can definitely have a conversation about certification training, as you well know.
Yeah.
High performance building operations professional. So, well, thank you. All right. And then Dr. Deb Hall in lovely Valencia College.
So I'm Dr. Hall, and I'm basically an electrical engineer turned professor of out at Valencia College. I'm the professor in electrical and computer engineering technology, as well as a program chair for energy management and controls technology associate in science degree. Valencia College is in Central Florida, and I found my way into the building operations, building automations work, basically via my dean, who asked me to become the energy management controls technology program chair. The role that diversity, equity, and inclusion plays within Valencia College is huge, right? These concepts they play a major role in literally the core mission of Valencia. Valencia was established in 1967 as the first higher education institution to admit African-American students in Central Florida. So, from the get-go, Valencia College, was all about, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what I see as far as increasing interest with the BAS controls, I would say that definitely we see an increased interest within underrepresented students, but not as much as what we would like to see for high school girls. So that's definitely something that's a big part of the work that I do at Valencia to increase our female student enrollment. Definitely, though, I would say that our BAS industry partners in Central Florida, they are super interested in increasing underrepresented students. So it's very exciting. So they are all about helping us in every which way possible. And some skills that are highly valued would be communication skills, teamwork, team building skills, troubleshooting skills, and also feedback that we've received from our local Central Florida BS industry partners is that definitely the females that they have working in the industry have been excellent as far as, checking all those boxes and more. So that's part of why they're really looking at trying to continue increasing that pipeline. And what commitments have our local industry partners offered? Basically, it's pretty amazing. So for our energy management controls technology AS degree seeking students, our BAS industry partners have offered scholarships, internships, mentoring opportunities, in-class guest speaker opportunities, hands-on lab exercise, curriculum creation in partnership with our faculty members. They've also been instrumental in lab equipment donations, capstone course evaluation, and full-time jobs as BAS technicians. And let's see. Anything that I'd like to suggest in addition would be, I highly recommend that you basically you try to establish relationships with local area high school counselors and parents of high schools and middle school students via offering hands-on workshops, lab tours, info sessions at either your college or perhaps at local area high schools or middle schools, or even offering industry tours. So working with your BAS industry partners and maybe setting up tours of their facilities and inviting the parents as well as high school counselors. And of course, those students, the high school students and middle school students, incredible. That'd be a great thing. And then another idea is maybe if you could create a virtual reality tour of your lab and then take that on the road to local area high school college fairs, middle schools, veteran fairs, trade school, tech college events, and even electrician HVAC technician related events. This is where you're going to find underrepresented students, and it's a great way to if they can't come to the college to do a tour, basically you're taking a tour to them. And most folks are very excited about putting on a VR headset and instantly being taken into the world of basically what if they were to become a student in your program, this is what a BAS technician studying student would experience. So it's a great thing.
Well, thank you, Deb. It sounds like Central Florida is really stepping up its game. Terrific to hear that. I want to kind of circle back to this kind of question about role models, right? I know that for me personally, I look to certain role models to kind of help inform my career choices. And Armando and Susan, could you speak, more about that? And Armando, I think one of your friends out there in the audience also asked that you speak about one of your projects. I think there was one, it was referred to as an SCE project. Let me kind of go back and look for that.
I think it was Janie. Hi, Janie. I think it was Janie Page.
Yeah, there you
she's
go.
a former colleague, now retired at
Right.
Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. Yeah, so that was a project basically consulting SoCal Edison, one of the California investor-owned utilities, on the up and coming trends in demand response enabling technologies for residential sector. So yeah, that was taking a deep dive into the demographic and needs of the communities that are served by SoCal Edison. That was a great project, really got my feet wet. That was one of the first projects I worked on when I got to Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, and dealt with the trends that we were seeing with voice assistant technologies, different cloud-based platforms that are now coming online that enable customers to participate in demand-side management strategies, things like Nest, which is now owned by Google, other sort of message-based demand-side companies such as Connect that enable customers to participate in demand-side management opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, and was there a role model that kind of steered you towards buildings and, building science?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I am a first generation college student. My parents are both pretty working class, so didn't really have much of a guiding light growing up. Sort of by chance, during my time at UC Merced, I had the pleasure of working at the school's facility management team under the campus energy manager and director of energy and sustainability there as an energy analyst. So, first, I would say those were my initial mentors that I came across. First had me working on utility billing and recharging of campus buildings, then later working on things like economic calculation for lighting retrofits, did a little bit of some LEED certifications for the school. And then finally, most importantly, they gave me access to the campus building automation system, which was at the time Automated Logic, which is one of the bigger automation system companies. And there I was exposed to the automated building systems, our HVAC systems. I would help troubleshoot HVAC systems when our department would get cold calls from disgruntled professors, people just saying, "Hey, my room's too hot and too cold. What's going on? Can you come fix my HVAC?" And I'd go in and troubleshoot, and then we would dispatch HVAC technicians on site to go and fix those problems. And really that opportunity helped me make the connection between these building systems and the role in promoting the campus's net zero goals. And additionally, I began to see the power of data. So, these systems are highly automated and monitored, and you have so much data that could help us, enhance operational efficiency and create actionable insights for our technicians and building managers. So, basically found Revelation sort of took me to the path that I am now, and that's how I got here. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. And Susan, what about you? Right.
Well, a little bit the opposite to Armando. Both my parents were actually professionals, nursing and in the government, but they never shut any doors. My father was just as likely to hand me a screwdriver, a wrench, helping with the repair, and shingling a roof with my mom. So those avenues were always open to me. But I think my inspiration came from getting into a pump room at the local rink. And then the first woman that I met that was non-traditional was a woman by the name of Doreen Barker, and she was a stationary engineer at one of the government sites that my dad worked at. So meeting her was kind of eye-opening. And so she was way ahead of her time. She was nearly at her retirement years by the time I met her, and that would have been in the mid-'80s.
All right, and by rink, like skating, ice hockey rink, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So getting into the pump room there and seeing the machines behind the closed doors, something about closed doors, I always want to get in behind them. So working in buildings is a good place for me.
There you go. Yeah, never mind the ice. Nah, yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. And Deb, how about your path into electrical engineering?
Yes, my father was an electrical engineer, and actually it's quite interesting. Data does show that girls who have either some sort of a male figure, so it doesn't have to be the father, it could be maybe an uncle or a close family friend, but who is in the field of engineering or some sort of technical field and encourages them. So, my dad was very encouraging of me kind of following his footsteps. And so that made it kind of a safe sort of, even though, there's a reason why not everybody is an electrical engineer. I mean, it is a struggle, but even in like the darkest times when I was like, oh man, this is tough, I just kept going. And I think part of it is just, knowing that I had supportive parents.
Yeah, my daughter, she says she hates science, so I guess I'm not doing a very good job. I'm trying to do better. And maybe I can get some tips from all of you. All right. Now, kind of going back now to our current labor situation and preconceptions people have about the trades, right? And, what they might earn or what have you, right? Deb, you mentioned a few things that, we could do to try to, get people excited about what the real possibilities are, right? How can we scale up this messaging? And this is open to the entire panel.
So one idea is something that Valencia is trying to do. We're working with Create we've created a kind of infomercial with one of our female graduates, our very first female graduate from our EMCTAS degree program. And just kind of, interviewing her and showcasing the lab with her doing her thing, and then her talking about kind of her experience, like her motivation and such. And then this little infomercial is going to be uploaded on the Create website along with other colleges that have similar type of energy related programs. They're female graduates. And so the concept or the idea is across the nation, educators can go to the Create website, they can download this, basically interview with a successful student who graduated. So that way, future like high school girls or, underrepresented populations can like check this out. High school educators or middle school educators can show this little video in their, classroom, if they only have a few minutes, it's not a long one, or, if they want to show more than one, they can kind of show different graduates, around the nation. So that's kind of the idea. So that would be, I guess, one example of how to maybe scale up the idea of, across the nation or world, how can we, just turn on young, underrepresented population folks to pursuing, this type of career.
And
I'd also be happy.
yeah, please, no, go right ahead.
Yeah, no, thanks, Debbie. I really appreciate your comments there. And I'll just chime in that I think, trades and especially technology forward careers like engineering, I think do a really good job right now of getting people that are interested in technology for technology's sake, which is a really important group of people to reach. But I think there's also a whole lot of people that are interested in technology, but because of the larger story of why it exists or what the bigger impacts are at a societal scale. And I put myself a little bit more in that bucket as well, where I didn't necessarily foresee myself working in technology when I was a young in school, but I cared a lot about climate change, and I cared a lot about social inequality, and started to see how technology could be a vehicle for making progress on those issues that I care about. And I think that can sometimes be a difficult story to tell, but I think it's getting easier where, smart technologies that can help reduce energy use, reduce carbon emissions, help people be more comfortable, more affordably in the buildings that they're within, is really cool. And I think a lot of people care about those outcomes and actually have no idea how the technologies around them can help drive that progress forward. So, sometimes I think about, I've looked at educational curricula for community colleges and things as a few parts of my job. And I've wondered, this class called HVAC digital controllers 1 and 2, right? Like, okay, it's very technology centric. What if we called that class like advanced comfort systems, or, sustainable comfort systems or something, right? Like, can we teach the exact same material, but give a better understanding to people that are interested in what the benefits of participating are?
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's a
Madeline,
great idea.
I think you just gave me the idea to draft you to help review the Best Center model curricula and see, how can we further fine tune things, right? Yeah. Susan, what about at Jones Lang and LaSalle? Are there some kind of current initiatives, either within your company or broader across the entire JLL spectrum regarding DEI?
Yes, there is a DEI group that has started probably within the last year, and has been starting to make some progress. I'm not involved directly with that group, but we do have a small contingent in our city that's also starting to work on initiatives, and I was solicited by them to join, and I wanted to focus on the energy and stuff, so I haven't been as active in that, but I do recognize that being a woman in this trade career line does make me stand out, and does make me empathetic to other people that are trying to come in, and I would have no problem supporting any new colleague to challenge this stuff. As a matter of fact, I would probably be just as vocal on this as I have been on the energy format.
Very good. I also, wanted us to, again, start to look at, how we can further support underrepresented groups without, kind of producing any kind of unintended consequences, if you will, right? And by that, I mean, kind of using Asians as an example, we were referred to as a model minority by the media, right? And while that might have seemed complimentary at the time, again, kind of the reaction was less than enthusiastic, right? So how can we, again, deliver effective outreach, right? And really get people to see the potential that's inside of them. Deb, you want to take a shot at that?
Yes, well, actually, I just also wanted to just comment just on the last question that you had, just real quick. Another idea that I have that I think would really help kind of expand like across the world, if especially for y'all, since you are in California, probably are closer to like Hollywood movie type of script people, but if we could somehow create some sort of a storyline where the main character is a diverse, like underrepresented individual who is a BAS controls tech, right? and is in some sort of a role where now, you know, it's on Netflix, Amazon, you name it. And it's in this particular character is doing her thing or his thing. And wow, you know, like somehow that would really up the game. If we could, you know, get to know, I know movies are also being made in Atlanta now or Georgia. So, you know, maybe California or Georgia, Hollywood type of movie script, that would be amazing. Somehow, I don't know, maybe we need to start with a book first, and from a book, you know, becomes a screenplay. But just getting out that idea of, you know, how powerful a control, you know, a BAS tech is, and what kind of role they play in the world and how they can better the world. And that, you know, high school, middle school, I mean, you know, they all are consuming this type of, you know, media. So that's just an idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Susan or Armando?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there isn't some really good lines to recruit, like second recruit kind of people, like an automotive technician that has all kinds of DC skills and works with computers and stuff like that on a car, that is not some of that stuff transferable to learning BAS and stuff like that. And of course, unfortunately, I don't think we do as good a job here recruiting vets for second careers to something like HVAC and controls as you folks do. So that would be a page I would like to lift from your.
Right. We've got a question here from the chat, and Tim points out that at least here in California, Latino participation in the trades has been relatively strong. But that one of the challenges we're facing today, well, quite frankly, is an economic one. You know, how do we ensure that this type of work pays a prevailing wage and will include, you know, the benefits that are so critical for supporting families, right? So how can, you know, we be sure to kind of turn this around, right? And I wonder if, again, you know, I also invite the audience maybe to chime in on this too, you know, whether, again, you know, organized labor, what have you, right? That those all become kind of part of the scenario.
Yeah, I certainly don't have all of the answers here by any means, but I'll just say that I think organized labor has played a fantastic role in a lot of sectors to help drive these conversations forward. I also know that as a step in this direction, the infrastructure law that was passed in November requires Davis-Bacon prevailing wage laws for all of the projects that are being deployed through that work, or if not all, practically all. There might be some exceptions, but the vast majority. So I think that's a really fantastic step forward here. I know in some of these occupations, it can be kind of challenging to identify prevailing wage, and that there isn't even always the data sources to make that super feasible, in particularly outside of the construction sector. And so a big element at DOE has also been figuring out how we can be more collaborative with the Department of Labor, make sure that the Bureau of Labor Statistics has the data points that we need, you know, even just trying to find the appropriate occupational codes for BAS technicians and operators is really challenging, right? I mean, you know, I was doing some research a few weeks ago and seeing that facility management is tied with administrative services, which is quite different, I think, in a lot of ways. And building operations is tied with like landscaping and things. And so there's not even always a clear occupational code to refer to, and then to talk about a prevailing wage being tied to that. So there's some work to be done in terms of like how we organize this information at a national scale so that we can better serve those needs.
Right. I think that Best Center would certainly welcome an opportunity to have discourse with Department of Labor on that very issue, right? Well, we are, wow, it's amazing how quickly the time goes. Okay, we just have time for parting thoughts here before we go on to our next session, right? And I'll start with Armando.
Yeah, I've been really happy to hear everyone's thoughts on this, and I echo some of the sentiments before about really focusing on vocational training in addition to STEM education, and I think those are key to the development of the workforce. Funneling funding to programs at disadvantaged communities, community colleges. I know Bakersfield, for example, has an HVAC sort of program for technicians, but there's no clear entry for engineering students to also get into that as well. There's a lot of trends now with the HVAC and building industry where things are getting a lot more software oriented. Students that are into computer science and all that can find this industry a lot more appealing as well. So there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I think we have some good hands on this. Thanks.
Okay, Susan.
I'm hopeful that to that last topic that employers are more open to it. I know to my own experience and those of my students who asked me how they thought it was going to be to get into the trade. My answer to them was, hopefully you only have to find one employer. You get one employer and you get started and you get some work experience, and then that becomes a non-issue. So hopefully there's more people right up front now than there was to make that happen.
Dr. Deb?
I love the ideas that are percolating actually on the Q&A session, the idea about the climate change champions, right, for YouTube and TikTok. So it's just neat. I love these sort of events where, there's just like brainstorming, because this is just a really interesting problem that, it's going to take a lot of folks to really look at it from different angles. And it's exciting. And I'm actually going to think about now how we can make that happen with, forget the Hollywood writers, YouTube and TikTok. I love that idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. And finally, Madeline, since you started, you can close.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just reflecting on some of the things folks have talked about, I think some of the things we're most excited about to see in the space are partnerships. There are a lot of organizations that are either doing energy training incredibly well, or reaching underserved populations incredibly well, or providing job opportunities. And we need all those people working together, right? And to really promote diversity in this workforce takes time and it takes resources. And so I would challenge folks to spend a little bit of time seeing what community development organizations or public workforce system organizations are functioning in your area, and introduce yourself. Because I think we will be happily surprised with all the great work that's happening out there. And if we can become better connected, I think there's a lot of positive things that can happen.
Excellent. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have any other questions, feel free to chat with our panelists. I think by now you all know to access that little symbol to the left. So get out of here, go on to the next session with Brian Lovell, and thanks. Make it a great day and a great year.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.